want to start off by reading you guys a quote by Marianne Williamson, which I think perfectly depicts the exact point that we're about to get into, which is the quote unquote fear of success. So the quote reads, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be?" Now, when I first heard this concept of the fear of success, it resonated with me immediately because, I'd always been this type of individual who had enough confidence, just enough confidence to do the thing that I wanted to do, right? At the age of 14, I started making music. At the age of 21, I recorded my first piece of video content. However, I was not able to sustain the activity necessary to actually become successful in any of my pursuits. And the reason for that was not because of, this fear of flopping or this fear of falling off or failing, but instead it was because I was afraid of success, or more specifically, what would come with success. So when I first was introduced to the concept of the fear of success, it was a breakthrough for me. But what added a different level of depth to it and actually transformed my life was when I heard a teaching by Teal Swan is her name, right? I believe she's a spiritual teacher, whatever you would classify her as. And she had a specific video where she was talking about the fear of success. And she said, there's no such thing as the fear of success. Now, at first, this struck a chord with me, not in a positive way, because I thought to myself, no, of course there's a fear of success. I've been struggling through this for a majority of my young adulthood. So after, letting down my pride, letting down my guard, I listened to the message. And the way she broke it down was this. She said that it is not success that we're afraid of, but instead what comes with that success. Right? This sounds straightforward and simple, but I believe there is so much here, so much value here for anybody who is willing to listen and deep this message. It is not that we are afraid of success, but instead what we attribute success to. What do we believe is going to happen as a result of success? So from the earliest stages of our lives, we are conditioned into a multitude of belief systems, not just by what we hear, but mostly what we see and what we feel. Energy speaks louder than words ever will. Our first language as infants is energy. We are feeling the emotional capacity of those around us before we can even translate it in language. Language oftentimes is used as a means to basically process and communicate what we're feeling. And more times than not, it's used to do the very opposite. But that's a story for a whole nother time. So from the early stages of life, you're conditioned, you're programmed into these beliefs. Many of us are raised into a belief system that does not serve our highest purpose in life. But instead, most of us are conditioned to believe that we are less than, that we are not worthy of, and that if we were to ever step out of these boundaries that have been created for us, if we're to step through the limitations that have been drawn out by the ones who came before us, we would be ostracized, kicked out of the tribe, separate from the group, and therefore we would be isolated for life. Now, I'll be lying to you guys if I told you that there was not a reality as far as this separation that comes when you truly become successful, when you start to live a life that is in alignment with who you truly are. There is very much going to be a period of time when there's isolation, if not more than less, because the matter of the fact is, people love the idea of success, but most people resent, detest, and fear what it actually looks like. It drives them into depths of insecurity. You see this when it comes to quote unquote celebrity culture. When people are so obsessed at the same time, they're so resentful and filled with jealousy and envy. For the very same one that they pedestalize, they try to break down into nothingness because there's this insecurity, there's this deep sense of unworthiness and undeservedness that comes up to the surface when we oftentimes see somebody who is quote unquote successful in the ways we want to be. Envy is nothing more than an expression of our own desires. It's I want what you have. Whereas jealousy is I don't want you to have what you have because I don't believe I can have it. And oftentimes we start off in envy when we believe we can't do something or can't have something. Or again, in the point of the fear of success, we are so afraid of what would come with success, so afraid of the rejection that may come with success, that we hold ourselves apart from it. We will develop envy as a coping mechanism. And then jealousy starts to take over because we can no longer handle, that unfulfilled desire. So our greatest fear is our brilliance. Our greatest fear is that when we shine amongst those who are afraid to shine, that we're going to stand out. And to stand out means to be rejected. It means to be isolated. It means to be separate from. And that has been one of our greatest fears as humans since, I would say, the beginning of humanity, since the beginning of time. It has been one of our greatest fears, and yet it is our greatest freedom, is when we can separate ourselves from the groupthink, when we can truly live as individuals. Yes, we are interdependent. Yes, we're always going to be connected to one another. But to find our authenticity, to find our individuality is the most important part of living. That's why we were created as individuals. We would have stayed as source, all as one, without any individual expression, if the purpose of this life was not to discover who you are, not to express yourself at an individual level, to see what is the message within you. Before I filmed this video, I asked myself, what is the message for today? I didn't write nothing down. I didn't come up with some concept. But as soon as I sat on this chair and right before I click on that record button, the message was there. And it's a message that only I can deliver in this very specific way because it's mine to deliver. But this comes as a byproduct, right? And the byproduct is of a belief that the expression of who I am is the most important thing, no matter what comes with it. Because I'll be lying to you if I told you that when you start to shine, when you start to truly step into your purpose, that there is not going to be a sense of backlash, that you're not going to feel, some sense of guilt, like you're doing something wrong, because that's the conditioning, that's the program. We've been programmed to stay in the boundaries and to use every mechanism possible in order to keep us there. There's a book by a man by the name of Gay Hendricks. Shout out to my fellow Aquarian, Gay Hendricks. And the book is called The Upper Limit Problem. And he essentially breaks down this concept of how, we have these self-imposed or societal imposed limitations. And when we start to go past those limitations, we will oftentimes create sabotage mechanisms to bring us back to our more default state, or the place that we're most comfortable. So, he would bring up stories of different clients, et cetera, he would have. Let's say, there's a breakthrough within a relationship, a marriage is blossoming and things are going so well and they're intimate and they're connected again. Then all of a sudden they both, find a way to get sick and get poison ivy before the wedding day. Or, you have somebody who just hits a threshold in business, finally hits the first $1 million, and all of a sudden they have a crazy injury that happens right after the news. We would think to ourselves, oh, it's because, with the good has to come the bad. It's just polarity. No, it's belief system. There's a belief that's been indoctrinated into us that with the good has to come the bad. And this is something I've had to continuously process out of myself, especially coming from a religious background, is this flawed belief that with the good has to come the negative. They have to be coinciding. They have to balance each other out, that things can't just progressively get better and better and better. And so we use these mechanisms in order to keep us in a frame of what we believe is safe, right? All we're ever looking for as humans is safety, is familiarity, is comfort, because at some point in our history, it meant survival. When we coded and memorized the stories of what happened when we stepped outside of the boundaries, and it takes one story, right? It's that one uncle, that one grandpa who went out and tried to create the business and he failed and everything imploded and his family was left on the streets. And now that story is perpetuated throughout the entire family's lineage. And that becomes the narrative that everybody is basing themselves off of. They won't see the multitude of other successes. They won't see that, grandpa, uncle, whoever it was not actually somebody who believed in their success or had multitudes of sabotaging belief systems. But instead, they take the story in order to hide. Again, as Marianne Williamson says, Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that most frightens us. We know what it is to be broke. We know what it is to be miserable. We know what it is to be dysfunctional, chaotic. But what is it? How terrifying can it be to actually prosper? Because now I'm going to be responsible over this money. That may be a fear. Now, maybe people aren't going to like me. I know how the average person talks about a rich person, and I'm going to become that rich SOB. I'm going to become the one they're talking about, eat the rich. They want to eat me. And not in that way. Not in that way. More in a Hannibal type of way. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? And we can add on to that. Who am I to shine? Who am I to be magnificent? Who am I to step into my purpose? Who am I to live fully expressed? Who am I to be prosperous, to be healthy, to be wealthy? There are those who will keep themselves from being healthy because sickness is all they've ever known. And it's kept them in a perpetual cycle of closeness, of attachment to the ones who are closest to them. The only relationship dynamic you've known is throughout poverty, and you've perpetuated that very same narrative of poverty in order to keep you in this feeling of safeness. You have a feeling of security there. It feels like home, but in truth, it is holding you back from the very thing that would fulfill you. It is holding you back from the fulfillment of who you truly are in this life. This is a message that, again, there is never a day that goes by where this message doesn't ring as ultimate truth for me, because I see it in everything that I do, and I continue to question, why am I afraid to take that step? Why am I afraid to take this step? Why am I afraid to get to the next level of success? Again, I didn't start making YouTube videos yesterday, but yet I stopped and started, made a bunch of excuses for not continuing. Music-wise, 14 years old I started. And I was getting crazy momentum. Then I left music completely. Then I picked it back up in my early 20s and dropped it again. And I finally made a decision to be like, I can't do this anymore. There's too much pain associated with stop starting, and never actually taking off within the things I love to do. I'm not willing to settle into a life that I did not choose, but instead a life that is based upon the fears and the insecurities of those around me. I'm no longer willing to do that. The pain is now outweighing the pleasure of doing so. And we have to reach that place. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but we have to get to a place where we're so sick and tired of, caring so much what everybody else thinks, or being afraid of being ostracized. What's it going to mean for me? What are people going to think about me? How am I going to be viewed? Am I still going to be liked? Are my family members going to hate me or love me? If they do not like you because you are successful, they were never meant to be in your life in the first place. If they do not love the most authentic expression of who you are, let me run this back. When they do not accept the most authentic version of who you are, they never loved you to begin with. If they loved a version of you that was created, a makeshift version of you, they never loved you to begin with. So why would you want somebody who only loves you for the mask that you wear? Why would you only want to be around somebody or crave the attention and the validation of somebody who doesn't even love themselves, and they have no capacity to love you? And you're going to base your entire life off of that. I remember having a conversation with a homegirl of mine way back in the day. And she was telling me how, it was like her third time trying to go back to college, back to school. And I said, is this what you really want to do? She's like, absolutely not. And I said, what is it that you want to do? And she laughed, and she nervously laughed. And she's like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. I said, nah, what is it? And she was like, I want to go to Costa Rica, wherever it was, and swim with the turtles. And I was like, if that's what you love, I know you love animals. Like, that's what go do that then. Go do that. I said, no, but I have to da-da-da. And, my parents said they would kick me out if I don't go to college, and I really need da-da-da, and I'm not making enough of my job. I said, do what you are called to do. And I said, look here. Let's say you go to college, right? You do the 4-year program, and maybe you do a master's, whatever after. So what's going to happen is you're going to have your graduation day. You get your diploma. They send your diploma in the mail. Your parents get the diploma. They're so happy, so proud, put it on the wall. 3-4 years go by. They're going to take the diploma. They're going to move it into the garage because they got to make space for other stuff, right? Maybe they move houses 10 years later. Now that diploma's moved into a box, maybe it makes its way out, maybe not. More likely not. 15 years go by, 20 years go by, and the diploma's somewhere collecting dust. That's what's going to happen to that diploma. And all that you got for that was, this crusty ass little piece of paper that's going to be collecting dust for the rest of its lifetime. Nobody will ever care about it again. Not you, not them, nobody. And the celebration was maybe for that day, for a couple weeks, for whatever. But now it's like, okay, what are you going to do now? What's your job? Life is going to move on, and your parents are eventually going to pass on. They're going to transition to the next lifetime. And what's going to happen there? You're still going to be stuck with the decision you made to appease them because of your fear of stepping into your own brilliance and your own magnificence. You have a calling. And, she sat there, she cried, whatever it was. And maybe a year or two later, I'm on my IG when IG was still popping. It was still a thing. And the first picture that pops up on my feed is a picture of some, blonde chick in the ocean swimming with fucking turtles. And I'm like, wait, that's you. And I had the biggest smile on my face. I was like, there you go. You figured it out. And that's what I want for you. I want you swimming with the turtles. I don't want you living a life based upon what you think everybody else wants you to do in order to satisfy them. A lot of people struggle finding their purpose. It's not you struggle finding it. It's you're afraid to actually go there. You're afraid to even give it a chance. And you talk about, it's hard to believe in yourself. You can't believe in yourself doing something you're not created for. I can't believe in myself being a nuclear physicist. I don't give a damn about nuclear physics. I don't give a damn about it. I can't be brilliant in being a construction or a builder necessarily, because I don't give a damn about building. I really don't. I give a damn about what I do here.
I don't chase the bag, no, I don't chase it at all. Yeah, I'm the type to manifest about as quick as withdrawals. You see my life in ATM, see all the hundreds involved. Feel like a magnet in my stack and want my energy charged. I don't chase the bag, no, I don't chase it at all. I swear my life is like abundance, got infinity card. I'm seeing 20s, 50s, 100s, swear this life like an art. A young Picasso, I bring it in the image to dawn. I don't chase the bag, I don't chase the bag, nah. I attract the bag, yeah. I don't chase the bag, I don't chase the bag, nah.